Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into something I know you're curious about. Spiritual guides. It's huge GE, right? We're talking about a history as old as humanity itself. But you send in this fascinating source, a tier list, ranking spiritual guides and, well, let's just say it's not your typical list.
It's definitely unique.
It goes from the logical to the literally unbelievable. I mean, have you ever heard of ranking Socrates next to, say, divine beings?
Right. Instead of focusing on chronology or influence, it categorizes figures based on the nature of their guidance and the beliefs surrounding them. It really makes you think differently about how humans connect with the spiritual.
Okay, so let's unpack this tier list. It starts with tiers C and B, from philosophers to saints. I feel like for a lot of people, that's where the journey starts.
It's about ethics, action. Think guidance for living a better life right now, not in some distant future. You've got figures like Socrates, who is all about self-reflection and critical thinking. And then you have someone like Martin Luther King Jr., who called for massive social change. Different eras, different contexts, but that common thread of improving this life through reason and action.
It's really interesting to see those two side by side. Socrates, shrouded in ancient Greece. We only know his ideas through what his students wrote down. And then MLK, leading a movement that transformed a nation, yet both considered spiritual guides.
Exactly. It shows how diverse this whole concept is. Spiritual guidance isn't about fitting into some rigid system. It's about impact, how someone makes others think, feel, and act, both within themselves and in the world. Socrates' challenged assumptions still relevant today, and MLK's message of equality and love, well, that continues to resonate deeply. Their approaches, different, sure, but the core impact, guiding towards a better way of being.
Our source puts Buddha and Lao Tzu in tier B as well, labeling them recognized spiritual influences. How do they fit into this whole ethics and action framework? Their teachings seem to go a bit deeper, don't they?
They do. They're a fascinating bridge between philosophy, ethics, and, well, maybe what you could call mysticism light. I mean, they both founded religions, Buddhism, Taoism, but they emphasize personal experience and observation over blind faith.
So less about a fixed destination, more about the journey of self-discovery.
You got it. Think about Buddhist meditation. It's about cultivating awareness, compassion, understanding yourself and your place in the universe. It's a practice, not about worshiping a deity. Quite different from, say, devotion to a higher power, which we see with some other figures in this tier.
See, this is what I love about this deep dive. We're exploring these nuances of spiritual guidance, how it's interpreted across cultures, and why any of it even matters.
Exactly. The human search for meaning. It takes many forms. There's no single path, which is what makes this tier list so cool.
Speaking of diverse paths, we also have figures like St. Francis of Assisi in tier B, known for his devotion to poverty and a deep connection to animals. It's interesting. His path feels deeply spiritual, but still rooted in, well, the human experience, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. St. Francis's life and teachings remind us that spirituality can be found in empathy, connection to the natural world, to the present moment. It's not always about otherworldly experiences. It can be about recognizing the sacred in the everyday and our interactions with all beings. And that's a great bridge to Tier A, actually, because this is where that idea of experiencing the sacred really takes center stage. We're talking mysticism, visions, those hard to define spiritual encounters.
So we're shifting gears a bit, right? From a focus on ethics and action to something more about tapping into a different realm of knowledge, direct experience of the spiritual, if you will.
Exactly. A great example is Saint Teresa of Avila. Her writings are full of these intense personal descriptions of her mystical experiences. It's raw, honest, and goes way beyond simple doctrine. She and others in this tier emphasize the individual's journey to connect with something larger than themselves. And that often involves altered states of consciousness, profound moments of insight.
It's so fascinating, though, because we've got figures like St. Teresa, who's deeply rooted in the Catholic Church, alongside shamans from all these different indigenous traditions. That's quite a diverse group to put under the mystical experience umbrella. How does our source reconcile those very different approaches?
See, that's what I love about this. It highlights how universal certain spiritual experiences can be, even across wildly different cultures. A shaman performing rituals in the Amazon rainforest and a Carmelite nun in 16th century Spain might seem worlds apart, right? But they both describe encountering realms beyond the ordinary, connecting with forces, with beings that defy easy categorization.
So it's less about those specific details and more about this core concept of experiencing something that transcends our everyday understanding of reality. Whether it's through intense prayer or meditation or traditional rituals, it's about pushing past those boundaries.
Exactly. Tier A challenges us to reconsider this idea that there's only one path to spiritual truth. It suggests that different cultures throughout history have developed their own unique ways of connecting with the divine, with this cosmic energy of the universe, however you choose to define it.
Makes you wonder if there's something inherent to the human experience that drives us to seek these connections, regardless of background or specific beliefs.
Right. It's a question that's puzzled philosophers and theologians for centuries. What is it about the human spirit that yearns for something beyond, something more? That's a deep dive for another time, though, maybe.
Right. So many rabbit holes.
Yeah.
But our source doesn't stop at the already mind-bending world of mysticism. We're moving on to Tier S, prophets and beyond. Get ready, because we're entering the realm where spiritual guidance intersects with the supernatural.
Now things are getting really interesting. This is where we encounter figures who, well, embody this idea of divine incarnation. Beings whose stories kind of exist outside our typical understanding of time and history, you know?
Okay, so it's like we've gone from debating if miracles happen to accepting them as a given.
Right.
We're talking about Krishna. He's simultaneously a charioteer, a philosopher, a prankster, A&D, an avatar of Vishnu, a god who maintains the entire universe. How do you even begin to categorize something like that?
That's the thing. These figures challenge us to think beyond those limitations, those linear frameworks of reality as we know it. They invite us to consider these realms where different rules apply, where the divine can manifest in ways we can barely even wrap our heads around. It's a far cry from, ethics and actions that we discussed earlier, that's for sure.
I mean, it's like our source is saying, okay, we've explored ethics, mysticism, even prophets claiming contact with the divine. Now let's just completely shatter those frameworks and talk about beings who redefine what it means to exist. It's exhilarating and a little terrifying, don't you think?
Totally. And this is where that whole idea of spiritual guidance takes on a whole new meaning, right? It's less about specific instructions or, rules to follow. It's more about contemplating these grand cosmic narratives, these stories that offer us glimpses into the infinite possibilities of existence. They invite us to expand our own understanding of what's even possible.
It's less about seeking a roadmap and more about contemplating like a vast, ever-shifting tapestry. But it doesn't even stop there, does it? Our source goes a step further with the category beyond the broken tier. What escapes total comprehension and logic?
Yeah, this is like ultimate mystery territory.
We're talking about figures like Enoch, who ascends to heaven and becomes the angel Metatron, or entities like the Elohim being so ancient and powerful, they make even like the Greek pantheon seem small in comparison. These aren't just spiritual guides. They're forces that have shaped the cosmos.
And it's here, at the very edge of understanding, that I think we encounter the limits of language itself. Trying to describe these figures, these entities, it forces us to confront the vastness of the unknown, to just acknowledge that there may be forces and realities far beyond anything we can really grasp.
It's definitely humbling, but there's a strange sense of wonder to it too. You know that feeling you get when you're staring up at a night sky just filled with stars and you realize how much is out there, how much you don't know?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's a key takeaway from this whole tier list, this whole conversation, really. It's not about definitively ranking spiritual guides or, picking the correct belief system. It's about recognizing the breathtaking diversity of human spiritual experience. All these countless ways people have sought meaning and connection, transcendence throughout history.
It really puts things in perspective, because whether you find guidance in the words of like a philosopher, the visions of a mystic, or even stories about divine beings beyond our comprehension, it's the search itself that matters.
Yeah.
It's this universal longing within us.
Yes, that yearning for connection, for meaning, for something more, that's what connects us all.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And on that note, I want to thank you, our listeners, for joining us on this incredible deep dive into the world of spiritual guides. We've only just scratched the surface here, but hopefully it sparked your curiosity.
It's been great exploring these ideas with you.
Keep asking questions, stay curious, and never stop searching for what resonates with your own spirit. Until next time, everyone.